What's up, 60 gang? Guess who it is? It's your boy Doug. What's up, guys? Good morning to those who woke up today. Happy birthday to those who were born February 18, 2025. And my condolences go out to those who didn't wake up. This is your boy Doug, aka 60 gang, aka Great Grandpa. Feel me? I'm just out here. Where am I? I'm somewhere. I am in Canton, Georgia. Looking at the dryer. And I'm on my way home. And I have a late afternoon call. But right now, we're going to talk to 50 Gang Gang.
Thanks for calling. Check out empty phone. Please hold while I try to connect you. Hey, Muff, hold on a second.
We're not doing that. We're not doing this. Just call her back. We're going to call Suzanne again. I have a late afternoon call with Suzanne. So I'm trying to reach her. I guess you think I don't got a marketing phone number. It does look like a marketing phone number.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Graves.
Yes.
I was calling earlier. I said she probably think I'm a marketing.
No, I did not, but I was in a meeting. I'm so sorry.
Okay. I'm Douglas with Post. I'm calling about your service call on your washing machine today.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just calling to confirm. I also have one question.
Yeah.
What's the earliest I can come by? I'm in Logan.
So I'm going to leave a little early to meet you.
Okay.
So probably the earliest I could be there would be 4:30.
All right. I'm coming from Loganville, and you're my next call because no one has called yet. So I will be definitely.
Oh, well, you know what? If you wanted to come early like this morning, you tell me, and I can run out there and let you in. That's fine.
Okay. Let me tell you what Well, it's going to give you some time because I picked up the call in Canton, Georgia, and I'm headed back to Loganville as we speak. So the way it looks is that I should be at your house at 11:15.
I can meet you out there at 11:15. No problem.
I'm on my way.
Hey, and I haven't even had this stupid thing a year.
What? You're under factory warranty?
I don't even know if it's under warranty. I just want you to come fix it.
You got it.
But I don't even care about that. I just want it fixed. But it's driving me nuts. It's brand new.
Is it a front loader or a top loader?
No, it's a top loader. It's a Whirlpool. But it's all flipping digital.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it keeps getting, you hit start,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll act like it's starting, then all of a sudden it'll flash done. Or it'll get stuck right after you started. It'll get stuck,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll just keep running and running on the same part.
Does it leave water in the tub?
No.
Oh, so it does drain. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong. It's driving me nuts.
I see. Well, I should be there 11:15, and I'll give you my best advice.
What?
Well, right now, since it's draining and it's do you still have your receipt or no?
Oh God, no.
I don't want to know until I see, but I'm going to advise you whether to repair it out of warranty or in warranty. But if you say if it's within 1 year, I'll have to see it before I'll be able to give you my best advice. Okay? I should be there at 11:15.
I'll see you then. Thank
All right.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, let's go to Georgia, which is just outside my home. Here's the view of Canton, Georgia. And we're gonna get her a call back. Turn left on Hickory Road.
Calling checked empty phone. Please hold while I try to connect you.
Oh, they arresting old boy. You got that on video.
Hey, Buffy.
Oh, arrest in progress. They are arresting my man.
Cool.
Some guy that was in a truck. Looked like he was doing some construction work, and 2 cops pulled them over. And they're
Right now? Hold on.
searching them.
Oh.
They're frisking them.
Okay. Hold on a minute.
That's enough to impress her. He must be suspended. I'm so nosy. They handcuffing him too. He must be suspended. Normally that's what it is. Music gets annoying. LaShawn, you need to put some hip hop on that motherfucker. Song. Put some Teddy Pendergrass on. Song. Alright. Y'all say goodbye to 50 Gang Gang. You just have to call us back. I don't want to hear this nonsense. Not 50 Gang Gang. Beep. Please call us back. We ain't got time for that.
And it's Tuesday, February the 18th, and this is Fox and Friends. We begin with a Fox News alert. An investigation is underway in Toronto after a Delta flight from Minnesota carrying 80 people crashed and flipped upside down on the runway. We're live from the scene.
Plus, Doge derangement. Elon Musk opening up about the backlash that he's facing from Democrats now, as saving taxpayer money apparently upsets them.
I used to be adored by the left, you know.
Yeah, not anymore.
Less so these days. They call it like Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. And I didn't, you don't realize how real this is until you can't reason with people.
Cannot wait for that interview, and we have some new sound there, obviously. And could Eric Adams soon be out of a job? New York Governor Kathy Hochul in an emergency meeting right in Manhattan today to discuss his future after more deputy mayors resign. Man, oh man, Fox and Friends for Tuesday starts right now. And we start with that breaking news out of Toronto. You saw it yesterday afternoon. Investigators are working to determine what caused that Delta connection flight from Minneapolis to Toronto to crash and flip upside down, catching on fire as it was landing.
Nate Foy is at the Toronto airport with more. Good morning to you, Nate.
Hey guys, good morning. Yeah, it was some visual, and early indications are this could have been a lot worse. We know 80 people on board. Officials say right now they know of 18 people who are injured. Those injuries range from minor to serious, but the important thing is that none of them are considered life-threatening. Take a look at this video. You mentioned the flight took off from Minneapolis. It came down here in Toronto. It was operated by Endeavour, a subsidiary of Delta. We know that the Transportation Safety Board of Canada FAA is going to lead the investigation. The FAA also is going to be at the crash site. Once the plane crashed, officials here say it was a textbook emergency response. Firefighters put out flames on the runway, and the cabin crew evacuated passengers with the plane flipped over.
We just landed. Our plane crashed. It's upside down. Fire department's on site. Upside down. Everybody, most people appear to be okay.
Crazy stuff. There were strong wind gusts at the time of the crash, but the fire chief in charge of the Toronto airport says that there were no crosswind conditions and that the runway was dry. You see, it was also covered in snow, but he says that the runway was dry. So we'll see what investigators say with an update expected later today. But we do know that the plane involved is a CRJ 900 Canadian regional jet. It is the same family of aircraft as the plane involved in the mid-air collision near Reagan National Airport back in late January. And of course, this is the fourth plane crash in North America over the past month. Again, we are expecting an update from officials. We don't know exactly when that will come today, but you can bet there will be a lot of questions about the conditions of the runway and any early indications as to what caused this plane to crash on the runway. We'll send it back to you.
Nate, I don't know what you can see, but can you? They say the wing's broken off. I mean, can you see what's left of the plane?
We can't see the plane from where we are right now. At 8 a.m., we're told that we're going to be moved to an area closer to the runway where that plane went down, Brian. But you can see from the videos on social media that one of the wing of the aircraft is detached. So we can't see it right now, but hopefully we'll get a closer look in a couple hours.
So, yeah, we're looking at some video right now, Nate, where the wing is sheared off. So I think the thinking right now is that it landed on its wheels, and then for some reason, maybe the wing touched the ground, it sparked, it burst into flames, and then it lurched, and then it sheared off the wing, and then it flipped over, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are the things that investigators will be working to figure out. And these investigations take quite some time. But what you can see from that video is obviously a very chaotic situation. And you see the video of the firefighters putting flames out on the runway. And it's such a dangerous moment, even after, the fuselage is still intact. They've landed belly up, but they still need to get those people off the plane quite quickly. And things could still turn south. So as officials really highlighted last night, this was a textbook emergency response, and they were able to get those people off the aircraft. You saw some of them were filming videos. We just played one of those videos as they got off the aircraft, which probably wasn't the smartest thing to do because you got to get away from the aircraft as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
but thank goodness
flames.
officials are saying that none of the injuries are considered life-threatening.
Yeah, Nate, I know 18 people were injured. There were 80 people total that were evacuated, but I'm imagining if they're in their seatbelts, they're flipped upside down. When you take that seatbelt off, you're going to, fall down. What about the moms that might have had babies in their laps? Have you heard anything about the injuries, how serious they were?
Well, speaking of babies, we don't know the exact age, but we do know that there's one pediatric patient that was taken to the hospital. Early reports were that there were 3 people in critical condition, and then airport officials later said they were not aware of people being in critical condition. They didn't specifically rule it out, so that's something that we're going to try to get some clarity on today whenever they do decide to speak to us. But we know of the initial reports, it was a middle-aged man and woman, and then a pediatric patient that were taken to the hospital with those serious injuries.
All right.
Thanks,
man. Let you get warm. I've never seen you so cold.
10 degrees below there.
Yeah, it is. I understand it.
It's like negative 10 here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nate. So can you imagine, you realize the plane has finally come to a halt. You are hanging from, you're in your seat, but you're upside down. And you realize the plane is on fire and you smell jet fuel. You see jet fuel running down the side of the plane. And that is why, and you know what? They practice this all the time. the flight attendants.
DOJ says it saved American taxpayers already. It's on the Facebook page, and they are not done yet.
It's incredible. Madeline Rivera has the latest on the cost-cutting effort from Washington. Good morning, Maddie.
Good morning, guys. DOJ, in one of its latest efforts, is focusing on the Treasury Department and says many payments were missing a tracking code. DOJ says the absence of that tracking code made it, quote, almost impossible to trace nearly $5 trillion in Treasury payments. Now, that tracking code is required, which DOJ says should bring more insight into where the money is going. DOJ's work could soon be expanding, as Fox is told. Its access to the IRS integrated data retrieval system is imminent. Democrats are sounding the alarm. One congressman is calling the move a power grab. The system in question contains sensitive taxpayer information. Career IRS employees have access to it and use it for their jobs on a daily basis. So the backlash here is about DOJ specifically accessing that system. But political appointees, remember, are federal employees with privileges similar to other federal workers, and the White House maintains everyone from DOJ viewing sensitive or classified information has the appropriate clearance and approval to do so. Also happening today, a federal judge is expected to issue a major ruling on whether DOJ has the authority to access federal data and fire federal workers. 14 state attorneys general accuse Elon Musk of illegal executive overreach, and they want to block Musk from accessing data and firing employees at 7 federal agencies. But in a hearing yesterday, U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan seems skeptical of the AG's arguments, saying the states haven't shown evidence of imminent harm. And Chutkan says part of that has to do with the unpredictable way DOJ has been operating, making it hard to figure out what DOJ will do or will not do next. Lauren, Steve, Ainsley, and Brian.
All right, Madeline, you started with that $4.7 trillion, essentially untraceable. We don't know why. They never said what account it was going to or where it came from, stuff like that. But they've changed that. As of, I think, last Saturday, now it's going to say, okay, this money came from here and it went there.
Exactly. Well, that's the hope. So, that's part of what DOJ is trying to do. That's why they say they're doing what they're doing right now. They say part of the problem is that there's a lack of transparency over here. You can't figure out where certain payments are doing. So this is part of their cost-cutting effort, or rather what their efforts are to trim waste, to trim fat, as they say. So we'll see whether or not, now that that change has been made with certain payments, we'll see whether or not the efforts here.
What about DOJ working with Social Security? Because Elon said, if you look at the checks that are going out to people, there are millions in our database that are listed between the ages of 100 and 159 years old. Obviously, people aren't living to be 159. Why are they still in the system?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's one of the questions here. That's one of the problems. Again, part of that, all of that will be part of the efforts that DOJ will be undertaking here. But certainly, look, there's a question over here, right? The mandate that the Trump administration has been saying for the past several months now is that, for the past several weeks now, is that they have a responsibility to be a responsible guardian of taxpayer money. And so this is part of the effort that they're trying to do here, guys.
Right. Thanks so much, Maddie. And we got to cut trillions out of the budget, at least $2 trillion, because we don't have a choice. We already owe over budget $864 billion right now. We are only in February, so this is going to be over $2 trillion that we're overdrawn. Then you factor in the rise in interest rates, so we owe interest on this debt. This is not a choice. This isn't like, wouldn't it be good to bring the deficit in? This is a necessity, or else our lifestyle as we know it is done. And on what you were saying on Social Security, so he's got looking at education, Social Security. He's also looking at the Treasury. 20 million are listed 100 and higher, including more than 3.9 million between 130 and 139 years old. There's 364 million checks going out to Social Security recipients. That's more than we have Americans. What are you talking about? How could this not be a 5-alarm fire?
Well, but doesn't it just grind your gears that they're protesting, them going through this? You think about your parents. I know my parents. Every penny mattered, every single one. And we've been just turning it over to these people, and they don't care at all. And then your parents make sacrifices so you can make it somewhere, and then we pay all this money in taxes. And there's been zero interest to get this under control until now, and now they're fighting Elon Musk and the president for just having accountability.
Well, sure. Well, here's the thing. When Madeline was talking about the $4.7 trillion that essentially is untraceable, and then Ainsley, you're talking about those millions of people who are in the database over 120 or 30 million people. It goes to show you how antiquated and how stupid the bookkeeping is, and that's why he's gone in there.
Yeah.
There is one. So, there's even one person in the database at Social Security who's over 360 years old. None of them are getting checks. In fact, on the website, it says for Social Security, it says at the age of 115, they stopped getting checks. And they've been doing that for 10 years. But it just goes to the point that the archaic American system with payments and stuff like that needs to have a bright light shined on it, and it's shining right now.
That is just common sense.
That's right.
So Sean Hannity has the first exclusive interview with the Doge leader, Elon Musk.
Now you're going to rescue astronauts. And now, and again, you do all of this. I would think liberals would love the fact that you have the biggest electric vehicle company in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be adored by the left, you know.
Yeah, not anymore.
Less so these days.
He killed that, huh?
I mean, less.
I really didn't.
Well, I mean, this whole sort of like, they call it like Trump derangement syndrome, and I didn't, you don't realize how real this is until like you can't reason with people. So like I was at a friend's birthday party in LA, just a birthday dinner, and everything was like a nice, quiet dinner, and everyone was behaving normally. And I happened to mention, this is before the election, like a month or two before, I happened to mention the president's name, and it was like they got shot with a dart in the jugular that contained like methamphetamine and rabies. Okay, and they're like, wow. And I'm like, what is wrong, guys? Like, you just can't have like a normal conversation. Yeah. And it's like they become completely irrational.
I cannot wait to watch this. It's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Sean Hannity's show. I mean, Elon Musk is a visual representation of all of the people that the Democratic Party has lost. He was on their side. Right. They lost him. They lost Joe Rogan. Think about all the black voters and Hispanic voters and gays and all the folks, the young people that were a part of the Democratic coalition, but they, as Ainsley continues to say, and the president coined this phrase of common sense, they just lost complete common sense, and instead of correcting their way, they doubled down and pushed Elon even further away.
Right, and when Elon Musk says the left used to love me, that's exactly what Donald Trump used to say when he lived here in New York City.
True.
He'd say, "Look, the Democrats, everybody loves me." When he was in show business and stuff like that, but then when he started running for president as a Republican, it's like, wait
look
a
what's
minute.
happening to Mayor Adams.
Yeah, that's
such a good.
And I just the last thing before we go to Mayor Adams, because this is huge and it relates to Donald Trump. For people that say that Elon Musk cannot be trusted in the Treasury or Social Security or IRS, he's got the highest level of security clearance, number one. Yeah. Number two, he already launched PayPal. With PayPal, you have everybody's private security. Everything. So do you really think he's going into the IRS to find a Mr. and Mrs. Johnson from Oregon's home address and credit rating? I mean, it is a bizarre attack. But as we're talking about the cover in the New York Post today, fall from Gracie. So you have Mayor Adams, who's losing four deputy mayors today who are resigning. They said it was hard enough working for an indicted mayor, but now they believe he's compromised because he's allowing Tom Homan to have at it to a degree when it comes to illegal immigrants. And they believe that he's not going to be indicted now and he's going to get away for it rather than looking at this case. So he looks like today, Kathy Hochul, one of the worst governors in the country who never should have been a governor. It's a total mistake. She was brought in by Governor Cuomo to try to seal up Buffalo area, northern part of New York State, and even though we didn't even need it, and now she's governor. So now she's going to meet in Manhattan today with some higher ups to see about removing a mayor, an elected mayor, for the first time in 235 years.
This is the thing. I don't understand Democrats in New York City. So this is the mayor, this is the governor that allowed all these liberal DAs to have violent offenders on the street that were murdering people, raping them, assaulting people. She didn't remove any of those DAs. Right. But now she wants to remove the mayor for working with the president of the United States to keep the city safe. Talk about priorities here.
Right, because, and we had the mayor on our show on Friday, and, her side is talking about there was a quid pro quo going on because...
I don't understand why the Democrats hate democracy. I mean, we heard it throughout the presidential race. Democracy. There's an election coming up. Well, if there's any type of corruption or let the voters decide.
Exactly. And so that's why I think, to that point, Lawrence, it's just a couple of months until he'll probably lose his office anyway. I think today she's going to come out, they're going to condemn him. She's not going to do anything, but it's just this constant drumbeat, for the primary voters. And there aren't that many here in New York City when it rolls around every couple of years. They're going to be reading all this stuff and it's like, oh, we can't re-elect that guy. Let's go back to Cuomo. Look for Andrew Cuomo to be the next mayor of New York.
Yeah, because that's going to go so well.
So we were interviewing the mayor and Tom Homan last Friday. If you missed it, here's a clip.
She has her role, I have my role. And throughout this entire ordeal, which I think no American should have to go through, the torment of 15 months that my family and I had to endure for something I didn't do. I didn't do anything wrong. Throughout the entire ordeal, I said one thing: my attorney will handle.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Douglas, this is Dan DeGusto. You were here yesterday morning?
Yes, sir.
Hey, when we paid, you said the amount was $372.65.
Right.
And the amount that went through was like $427 and change.
Let me walk that through for you. They overcharged you?
Yes.
All right, let me handle that for you. I'll call you back.
Okay, because the amount we did, we tried it on my phone, then we did it on your phone.
Right. Let me call and get that corrected for you. I'll get right
let
back.
me know what you find out.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Bye.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, this is Doug. I just talked to dispatch about your overcharge.
Yes.
They're going to be calling you within minutes, and they're going to be reversing the overcharge and pay. And you pay what you.
I think they're on the phone right now. Let me grab it.
Okay. Oh, where were we? $37 degrees.
Everything, drop it. Come on. Don't take it down. That's on the way.
No. Holy. That is an extraordinary point of view. That's a passenger crawling out of that Delta plane with his iPhone camera rolling. That Delta flight crash landing ended up upside down. Everyone on board's okay. We're still waiting to find out what happened. And we've got a couple of videos to share with you this morning, angles that we have not seen just yet until now. Good morning, everybody at home. I'm Bill Hemmer, live here in New York, and here we go,
Good morning. I'm Dana Perino, and this is America's Newsroom. And breaking this hour, we are getting new video showing the moment that this all happened. It was captured from the cockpit of a different plane that was parked nearby. Watch here.
That's just extraordinary. You never see that.
Thank goodness.
It happened yesterday afternoon. Everybody knows that. The flight out of Minneapolis descending into Toronto. It was a snowy and windy day there when suddenly the plane with what appears to be a hard landing of sorts and ended up belly up. From ABC, listen.
Let's say anything? No, there was no warning. We were coming in for a landing, and when the plane came in, we hit the runway really hard and like extremely hard, and we kind of popped up, and it felt like we were leaning to the left. And then what happened was it was just incredibly fast. There was a giant firewall down the side. I could actually feel the heat through the glass, and then we were going sideways. I'm not even sure how many times we like tumbled, but we ended upside down. I was hanging there in my seatbelt upside down.
And at the time of landing, wind gusts were topping out at 40 miles per hour. These planes, however, they are built to withstand strong winds.
Yeah, and a lot more too. It was a Bombardier CRJ-900, very popular, common airplane. It was carrying 76 passengers, 4 crew members, 18 people of the 80 on board were injured.
We begin in Toronto, where Nate Foy is standing by. Good morning, Nate.
Hey guys, good morning. The sun is up and the investigation continues, being led by Canadian federal authorities, the FAA in a support role. And you mentioned the injuries, 80 people on board, 18 injured.
This is the first tragedy in the game of hip hop. His death was the first murder in hip hop. Now, Scott LaRock, a straight genius. This was a guy way ahead of his time. I'm talking about this man was a smart, college educated with a degree, business type of man right here. He knew about marketing, promotion, publishing, and how to brand yourself, how to brand your company, and everything. I'm saying this because look, this was a young black man in the early 80s doing business with powerful white execs and record companies that they couldn't pull a fast one over him because he knew what he was doing in business. Music mogul Chris Lighty, rest in peace to Chris Lighty, once said Scott would have been Puff before Puff, but without the dancing. He was Chris Lighty's idol. Legendary DJ Red Alert said he was just a smooth, approachable brother that could relate to any type of person. That's why people gravitated to him. But see, his life though, man, his life went in so tragic, and you know, some people that was close to him say that he was actually assassinated to get him out of the way of the music business. So let's get into his story though, right? Let's go. Here we go. Now see, Scott LaRock was raised in the Bronx, New York, which is the birthplace of hip hop. Now, by the age of 4 years old, his parents separated and his mother raised him and his brother. And growing up, now Scott always wanted to help people. Even though he was poor himself, he would still give food to his friends in the neighborhood who was hungry. He was always trying to help them. That's just the kind of person he was. Now, around the age of 12 years old, he was introduced to hip hop after seeing legendary pioneer DJ Kool Herc DJing in Cedar Park. And he fell right in love with music. He loved how everybody was having a good time.
Yes, sir. Did they take care of you?
Yeah, they I believe they had. They said it would be reversed within 72 hours, but you know, they got a handle on it.
All right, appreciate you giving me a call on that.
Okay,
All
I
right.
appreciate your help. Thank you.
Welcome.
Take care. Bye.
Electricity from the lamppost to play his sound system in the park. Wow. This is where hip hop started, y'all. That's crazy. And he was there at the time hip hop was at the early stages in the Bronx. But see, also around that time, right, the streets was crazy out there with gangs, drug addicts, stick-up kids, shootouts, and everything going on in New York City at the time, Bronx and everything. And by junior high school, that's when his mother wanted to keep him out of the streets, so she thought playing sports would keep him busy. And that's when he fell in love with basketball. And look, he was a star. He was a superstar player at the high school playing basketball because he was like 6'3" in height, and that led to him dominating the courts. Plus, he was the captain of the team. But see, it was hip-hop, though. He fell in love with hip-hop. He just loved music so much that he wanted to become a DJ after seeing DJ Kool Herc rock parties in the neighborhood. And once his grandfather got him some turntables and he became good, he started DJing, calling himself Scott LaRock, in which he got that name from the rapper Coke LaRock, who was DJ Kool Herc's right-hand man. And look, Coke LaRock, they say he's responsible for the setup of a DJ and an MC rocking a party together. And you know what else? Coke LaRock is also considered the first ever rapper MC. Wow, that's history, y'all. Well, anyway, right now, after that, right, 1980 came around. Scott graduated from high school, and he ended up getting a full scholarship to play basketball at Castleton State College, which was in the state of Vermont. Now, see, this college was predominantly white, and it was a real quiet school, and he liked that. And he ended up becoming team captain on that basketball team there. Now, he also DJ'd while he was in college. He DJ'd for the college radio station too, introducing hip-hop to the white students. And once he started DJing for a bar called Dugan's on the weekends, his popularity grew. And the white kids in town loved it and would party like crazy when he would spin. I mean, they say the place was so jam-packed. They say people would stand outside in lines in the freezing cold trying to get in. Wow, y'all know Vermont, state of Vermont gets cold in the winter. He had the college on lock. And look, they couldn't get enough of him. Those white students wanted to learn everything about hip-hop during that time. And that's when Scott started bringing his friends from back home to perform graffiti, show them how to break dance at all the events they had in town and everything. Now, one of his friends, right, that Scott used to bring with him to Vermont, to the shows to show kids how to break dance was Darren Henson, who y'all probably know from the movie Stomp the Yard. And he was in the Soul Food series too, the Soul Food series. But people don't know that. They don't know that he got his start with Scott LaRock when he was like 14 years old. But anyway, look, now realizing and understanding the power of hip hop, right? Scott ended up graduating with a business administration degree, and he was offered a contract to play basketball overseas too, because his senior year at that college, he led the team to a 26-2 record. But he just wasn't interested in playing basketball overseas in Europe. He wanted to go to the NBA. So that dream was crushed. And he just decided to just focus on music because Scott knew that hip hop was about to take over the world. And by this time, it was like 1984. And he wanted to be a part of it. Now, after graduating college, right, he came back home to the Bronx and he got a job as a social worker and started working at a homeless shelter called the Franklin Armory Men's Shelter. But on the weekends, he was still DJing clubs. But see, look, at this homeless shelter, right, he ended up meeting KRS-One, who was living there at the time. And in the beginning, when they first met, they didn't get along because that was a rough homeless shelter full of men. It was full of drug addicts, ex-convicts, young teens fresh off the streets and everything. And to work there, you had to be a person that didn't take nothing from nobody, because see, Scott, they used to think, they thought he was a nerd because he would come to work with a briefcase, short sleeve shirt on with a tie, always wearing jeans, white pair of Nikes on, waves in his hair, always smiling, but he won't no joke though. He ain't play no games. And how he met KRS-One, right? See, him and KRS-One had bumped heads over a meal ticket and some subway tokens that the shelter used to give them every day. But see, Scott told him he needed to get a job first because Scott knew a lot of those guys in the shelter was selling those subway tokens to buy weed and beer and just live off the system. But later on though, you know, him and KRS-One became real close friends after meeting at Said G's house because he had a studio. And the Said G I'm talking about now, Said G from the Ultramagnetics with Kool Keith, because see, him and Scott LaRock grew up together. And when they met at Said G's house, KRS-One couldn't believe that their social worker was there. And they didn't know he was hip like that. But they became close, and Scott, you know, Scott thought KRS-One was very talented because he could draw and do graffiti and he can rap. He thought he was smart. And then once they became friends, you know, Scott used to tell him like, yo, he thought he was very intelligent. He thought he was very knowledgeable with his rhymes and everything. And he took a liking to him. And they became real good friends. Now, as they grew closer, Scott would invite them down to the clubs where he would DJ and let them rap. That's when they formed a group called the Boogie Down Crew. You know, they was calling the Bronx, the Boogie Down Bronx. So they just called themselves the Boogie Down Crew. And also around that time, he had met rapper D-Nice. Now see, D-Nice, he was young. D-Nice, he had a cousin that worked at the homeless shelter too. He was a security guard there. And he had brought him some food one day. And that's when his cousin introduced him to Scott. And Scott just took a liking to him, man. He just took him right under his wing and started working with D-Nice. Now, after that, right, Scott really wanted to pursue music with KRS-One and his crew from the shelter. And they ended up getting a deal. They got a deal with a label called Zakia Records, calling themselves Scott LaRock and the Celebrity 3, which consisted of KRS-One. They had a girl in the group. Her name, she went by the name MC Quality, and two other guys named Levi 167 and Kaz. And they did put out a single called Advance. And the song was like a conscious rap song, but it really didn't make any noise or get any airplay. So that label let them go out of their contract. And soon after that, the group, the Celebrity 3, they just broke up because all the other members had some issues. And that's when Scott and KRS-One, they stuck together and they just formed BDP, Boogie Down Productions. Now BDP, they ended up with a deal with Fresh Records, which was part of Sleepy Bag Records, because their other friend from the shelter, Just Ice, had just signed with them. But then they ended up losing that deal too after their single Success Is the World didn't make any noise or get radio play. But right after that, KRS-One and Scott was walking one day and they had a newspaper and they looked in the newspaper and it said a label was looking for talent, and they called a guy, and that's when they met a guy named Jack Allen, who signed them to Rock Candy Records and gave them their own label called B-Boy Records as a joint venture, only if they would put out a song about saying no to drugs. That's crazy too, because they wanted them to put out a anti-crack song, because see, what Scott and KRS-One, what they didn't know was that label was ran by a bunch of old gangsters and criminals who was tied with Joe Robinson, who y'all all know owned Sugar Hill Records. And Joe Robinson, he was tied to the notorious mobster label CEO Morris Levy, who dealt with the mafia and the Genovese family, Vince and the Chin Gigante, them real mafia cats. And y'all don't know him, check out that Godfather of Harlem series with Forrest Whitaker. You'll know all about him. But that B-Boy Records label that they had just signed to was ran by some criminals. But anyway, right, now with their own record label, B-Boy Records, KRS-One put out the anti-crack song called Crack Attack, but it really didn't make an impact on the charts. It didn't get no airplay, but the thing was, they still could put out music when they wanted to. After that, they started working on the album, the demo Criminal Minded. And while working on the album, they ended up meeting DJ Mr. Magic at the studio. Now see, at that time, look, Mr. Magic, probably one of the most powerful DJs besides Red Alert. I want to say he's probably one of the first DJs to play hip hop. But, you know, he was running with Marley Marl and the Juice Crew at the time. That was his crew, which is MC Shan, y'all know Biz Markie, Roxanne, Shantae, Craig G, and all of them. And Scott LaRock and KRS-One, they all excited. They met him, they praising him. They like, yo, would you listen to the music? They asking Mr. Magic to listen to their music because they really wanted to be part of the Juice Crew, believe it or not. They really wanted to be down with Mr. Magic because he had the whole hip hop thing locked down. All the rappers wanted to be part of the Juice Crew. But see, when Mr. Magic heard their songs they played for him, he told them straight up, which made them mad. I think Marley Marl said he was there. He said that it was so.
I had to hold you for the customer I was talking to. What's going on?
Nothing. I'm just calling because it's after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this customer to meet me. I just added a call. I'm headed to Bogart. What's going on? Get
Bogart.
up. Where? Go ahead.
Where's that?
Bogart?
Yeah.
Athens.
Okay. All right, I won't hold you. I was just calling, checking.
Yeah, they was telling me, but asking me what time I'm gonna be there. I'm trying to give them a ETA when you call, so I had to get them off the phone right quick.
Okay.
They gone now.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead and see what you got to say. I know you gotta say something.
No, I was just calling. Because I was busy. Every time you call me, I had a patient.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They was calling and calling, too.
Yeah, no, he was in front of me. So you said something about somebody getting arrested.
Oh, yeah, I was pulling out from this customer's house, and as soon as I made a turn, it was this construction truck pulled over by two cops. And they were searching the driver. By the time I pulled off, they was clanking him, buddy. He must have been suspended. They clank that ass.
Wow.
Yeah, it was happening while I was talking to you. Clank. Got them vigil. He's permanently on my page, getting arrested. I'm trying to creep over to Peachtree Industrial to get to 316. I told him I'd be there by 11:15. Bogart is right there in Athens.
Oh, okay, that's close to the house, right?
Yeah, I'm passing that though. I got to get on 316 out towards Winder. On the other side of Winder is Bogart. It's also known as Watkinville.
Oh, okay. So Winder, that's where Milky has her salon.
How come you don't go get your hair done at her salon?
She does weaves. I don't wear weaves.
Oh, what's that in your hair?
It's extension.
What's the difference?
These are braids.
I mean, what's the difference?
That's a loose hair. These are braided. This braid. That's
So
the
she
difference.
can't
Those
do.
are tracks.
She can't do what.
These are braids.
She don't know how to do that.
Well, no, she wears a wig. She put a wig on when it comes to the braids. Like
Well,
they
that's
have, they
basically
have
what
the
you
wigs
got.
that are. No, a wig you could just put on you put that on like a hat, like that. Hold on.
music, y'all. Y'all don't like that music. Just call me back, man. Just call me back. You ain't doing this. Go on back to what we was doing, y'all. Messing a nigga up.
Chance that he left. He said he even left the his music and sounds in the studio. He had to get out there fast. But after Mr. Magic dissed him, right, that's when KRS-One said MC Shan was whack. And from there, the beef was on. And that's when they went to the studio, made the song in response to MC Shan's The Bridge song. KRS-One and Scott LaRock made South Bronx. And look, now at first, right, it really wasn't no real beef because Scott brought the South Bronx to Mr. Magic and Marley Marl to play it. And he wanted to be on some. See, Scott LaRock was like, look, we'll diss y'all and then y'all can diss us back like Roxanne Shante did to Kango and the UTFO and Sparky D them. Same way they did it and everything, so everybody can make money. Scott was already thinking like that. It's the same thing the rappers be doing these days, dissing each other to boost record sales and promotion, but still be friends. Scott was already thinking like that back in the 80s. He was way ahead of his time. But, you know, Mr. Magic, Marley Marl, they was like, nah, we don't need you. We the Juice Crew. We already popping. So they gave the record South Bronx to DJ Red Alert. And the people went crazy for the song, especially in the clubs. DJ Red Alert said he had to play the song back to back over and over because the crowd kept chanting the hook. Now, after that, that's when MC Shan came back with the song called Kill That Noise, which people was feeling too. That was a hit too. And once Scott LaRock and KRS-One heard that, they went back in the studio and recorded one of the greatest diss songs of all time called The Bridge Is Over. Wow. And the battle was over. It was over. The Juice Crew never responded. And on March 3rd, 1987, they released the album, Criminal Minded, making it one of the first albums in the gangster rap genre. I never realized that. Because I always thought Ice-T and Schoolie D were the first gangster rappers. But anyway, now, the Criminal Minded album, songs like Poetry, 9mm Goes Bang, Super Hole, Criminal Minded, The P Is Free. Come on, man. The album cover, they had guns on the album cover, a hip hop classic. They say that was the first time an album cover had guns on it. Even Scott LaRock and KRS-One was posing with guns and weapons on the album cover, looking like drug dealers. That really wasn't what they were about, though. They was just saying that they was on some modern day Black Panther stuff, revolutionaries. That Criminal Minded album, Rolling Stone even put it on the list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. The Bridge Is Over, that song became one of the most sampled hip hop songs in hip hop history. After that, right, everything was going good. The album was successful and they started working on a second album titled By All Means Necessary. KRS-One, he already written the song Self-Destruction, Stop the Violence, and My Philosophy and everything. Is working on the second album. But on August 27th, 1987, Scott LaRock was shot and killed. Now, here we go. The story goes. Now, see, D-Nice, right, like a year before, keep that in mind, a year before they even blew up, Criminal Minded album wasn't even out or anything. They were still trying to get a deal. So D-Nice had a girl, which was a good friend of his, right? And it wasn't his girlfriend or nothing like that. He wasn't trying to get with her or nothing like that. She was just a good friend of his. So he called her. So when he called her, right, the girl's boyfriend ended up getting on the phone thinking D-Nice was trying to get with her. And he tells D-Nice when he sees him, he's going to kill him. So they ended up going back and forth on the phone, then they hung up, and that was that. Now, here we go. A year later, right, the Criminal Minded album is out. Everybody knows BDP. They done made it big in everybody else's eyes. The songs, the South Bronx and the Bridge is Over, blasting all over the radio and everything. Now, that same girl is telling her boyfriend, like, remember that guy D-Nice that you got into it with on the phone? Well, they big time stars now, which made him even angrier once he heard that. So look, one day, D-Nice and one of his boys were walking and talking in the hood, and all of a sudden, his boy goes down the block to talk to a bunch of other guys that was on a corner, right? Next thing you know, his boy disappears. His boy just disappears. You don't see his boy no more. And the guys on the corner start walking towards D-Nice, and they surround him, pulling their guns out. And dude that he had got into it on the phone, it was him. So he confronts D-Nice, pistol whips him, and then they all run. So D-Nice, right, and at that time, he's only like 16 years old, something like that. So he calls Scott LaRock and the whole BDP crew, and he's crying and everything. He tells them what happened, because at that time, they was all at McDonald's, Scott LaRock and everybody. They was at McDonald's eating with rapper Just Ice when they had got that call from D-Nice, because Just Ice had a deal, had that sleeping bag deal, and BDP was supposed to produce his next album. So when D-Nice had called and Scott LaRock said, we're going to get D-Nice and everything, we're going to check him out, see what happened. But KRS-One and Just Ice, they said they was going to stay, and the rest of the crew left to go get D-Nice. Now, when Scott LaRock picked him up, he told him that he was going to try to find the guys and squash the beef, because, you know, Scott LaRock was a social worker. He was a peacemaker. He was all about peace and helping people. He didn't want to do none of that violent stuff. So when they went to look for these guys, they didn't even have no guns. He wanted to work it out, squash it, because he knew beef wasn't good. Now riding around in a Jeep looking for these guys that roughed D-Nice up, it was Scott LaRock, D-Nice, Daryl, also known as the RoboCop, who was their bodyguard. They called him RoboCop. Their manager Mo and DJ McBoo. They was all in the Jeep Wrangler looking for these guys in the projects. And they ended up finding the guy, and Scott LaRock, they squashed the beef. They said that Scott and the guy squashed the beef. But then their bodyguard, RoboCop, who was like 6'5", big muscles and everything, he gets out the car, ends up getting into it with another guy, and he ends up slamming the guy on the ground. Next thing you know, bullets were coming from everywhere. People were shooting from the bushes, from on top of the roof and everything. So they all started running back to the Jeep, and somehow they all made it with RoboCop driving, and Scott LaRock jumped in the passenger seat, and D-Nice and the rest of the guys were in the back seat. But the other guys, they continued shooting at the car while they hurried off and drove off until they got somewhere safe, and everybody started checking each other to see if everybody was all right or if anybody was hurt. And that's when D-Nice said he saw blood squirting out the back of Scott LaRock's head. And that's when they discovered that Scott was shot twice, in the head and in the neck. Shaking my head, man. That's sad, man. They say Scott didn't even know he was shot at first until he complained of being dizzy. And he was telling them, like, why y'all got the music so loud? And then all of a sudden, he grabbed his neck. And then his head just hit the dashboard. And that's when they rushed him to the hospital. And they say he was conscious when they brought him into the emergency room. But he kept saying he was cold and feeling tired. And he went into a coma. And an hour later, man, the doctors pronounced him brain dead. And his poor mother had to make the decision to take him off life support. Shaking my head, man. That's sad. He ended up dying on the operating room. Terrible, man. And she also gave permission for Scott's organs to be donated to the hospital. Now, police did arrest two men. Named Corey Bain and Kendall Newland and charged them for Scott LaRock's murder. But they were acquitted at the trial because they had no willing witnesses to testify. Now, rapper Just Ice said in an interview that he had ran into one of those guys about 7 months or a year later at the club, at the Latin Quarter Club. And the guy must have thought nobody recognized him or something. But they did. And he said, once they said that's the guy that killed Scott LaRock, that's all it took. And he didn't say any more about that. He didn't say no more about what happened. Now check this though. Now here's the twist. Here we go. This is the twist though. Now Ced Gee from the Ultramagnetics, and he also helped produce that Criminal Minded album. He was around them during that time, and he grew up with Scott LaRock. Ced Gee was around. This is what he said. He was around. He didn't get credit for none of the production he did on the album and everything. So he knew how that label was, the B-Boy Records. Now, Ced Gee said in an interview that the label B-Boy Records that they were signed to, KRS-One and Scott LaRock was signed to, that label was run by criminals, and they assassinated Scott LaRock. That was the label's plan. Wow. And doing research on that label, those guys that ran that label, they was in some trouble. They used that label to front like a pornography type of setup scheme thing, bootlegging, selling records out the back door, all types of stuff. Now, Ced Gee said Scott's death was an assassination, and here's the reason why. Now, at that time, Scott LaRock and BDP had 2 record deals on the table. One with Warner Brother Records, and the other was with Jive Records. And both of these labels were going to buy them out of their contract with B-Boy Records, right? Now, Warner Brothers, they was offering them less money up front, but then was giving them 100% ownership of their publishing. And for all you artists out there now, publishing is the most important, because that's the mailbox money. That's the mailbox money coming to you for the rest of your life. You can give that to your kids. And Scott knew that. He was smart, business-minded, educated. He knew that. Now, the other record label, Jive Records, was offering more money up front, but they wanted all of their publishing. And the owners of B-Boy Records was cool with that because they was criminals anyway running the label, and they wanted the money up front. Plus, KRS-One also wanted the money up front. You know why? Because look, at the time, he was still homeless. He was living in KRS-One was living in a freezer that was under the office of B-Boy Records. It was like a garage with a walk-in freezer. And he was sleeping on crates with a mattress made out of clothes and newspapers. Plus, he had to put a brick to stop the door from shutting so he wouldn't suffocate and die if the freezer door closed, because 2 people had already died down there before. Wow, he was doing bad. Look, KRS-One said when the South Bronx and the Bridges Over songs were out, he was still homeless, sleeping on a train, but nobody knew his face because back then the pictures wasn't out. That's why he wanted the money up front too. But see, Scott LaRock was so smart and ahead of his time, he was trying to tell him and convince him that they should just take the Warner Brothers deal, even though it was less money, but they would make more money later on in the long run. But after Scott's death, they ended up signing with Jive Records anyway. But yeah, look, Said G also said that Scott squashed the beef with that guy in D-Nice, and that record label, B-Boy Records, paid their bodyguard RoboCop to make sure an incident happened. Wow. All those bullets flying at them, 5 people in the Jeep, and 2 bullets hit the top of the car, only hitting Scott LaRock in the head and in the neck. Sergi said they had a sniper on the roof. Wow. That's crazy. Like I said, Sergi was there. He knew about all the business and everything. So make sure y'all check out that interview Sergi did, and let me know what y'all think. He did one on Vlad TV too. He straight up said it. Scott LaRock was assassinated. And another thing I want to point out is this. When they took Scott to the hospital and KRS-One arrived, he said, now KRS-One said he didn't want to go see him because he didn't want to remember Scott like that. So, which is understandable. A lot of people don't go to funerals. They don't want to see nobody in that kind of shape. They want to remember them smiling and everything, which is understandable. And now, look, MC Search was there. And MC Search from Third Base, he was there. He said, he asked KRS-One, like, why did you have a smile on your face when Scott was dying that day? And this is what KRS-One told MC Search, right? He said, Scott is in a better place now. And now we're going to win. Because half the crew is in the spirit realm and the other half of the group is on Earth. We can't lose now. But you know, after Scott's death though, man, overall it was a shock to the entire hip-hop community because he died 5 months after releasing the Criminal Minded album. And another incident that had happened after Scott LaRock's murder was when a young fan was killed over a gold chain at the Dope Jam tour with Boogie Down Productions and Public Enemy, because at the time their security had quit on tour and they had no security there, and that young kid got stabbed in the heart. That incident and Scott's death made KRS-One start the Stop the Violence movement and put out the song Self-Destruction, which was produced by D-Nice and Hank Shocklee. And all the proceeds from that song went to the National Urban League. You know, Self-Destruction, that song Stop the Violence, actually went #1 on Billboard's Hot Rap Singles. And I loved it, man. I love that song, man. Just seeing all the rappers come together, BDP, MC Lyte, Kool Moe Dee, Dougie Fresh, Heavy D, Public Enemy, all of them. I wonder why rappers don't do that these days, man. They should get together and do another song like Self-Destruction. And just like the West Coast did one too, all in the same game. NWA, Hammer, Tone Loc, they all got together to stop the violence, man. But I don't know if they're gonna do that these days though. But you know, another thing, man, D-Nice, for years, D-Nice carried that guilt that it was all his fault that Scott LaRock got killed. And he felt KRS-One blamed him for his death. And for over 25 years, KRS-One didn't speak to D-Nice until years recently, and they're good now though, but you know, D-Nice always felt that it was his fault, man, that all that happened. Now, Scott LaRock Jr., Scott LaRock's son, he was 9 months old when his father was murdered, and he had some choice words about KRS-One. And basically he said KRS-One has done nothing for him ever. Wow. That's crazy, man. That's hard to believe. He said his father Scott would have never did that if the situation was reversed. He would have definitely took care of KRS-One's family because Scott's share should go to his son. Shaking my head, man. I can't believe that, man. KRS-One is worth millions. And Scott LaRock Jr., you know, he said he lived in the projects his whole life, had a very rough childhood, which led to him going to prison and everything. But I know now he turned out to be a positive guy doing his thing, though. But if KRS-One did that, shaking my head, man, that's terrible, man. Scott LaRock Jr. said D-Nice was the only one to stay in contact with him out of all those years. Wow. You know, you can check his interview out on Doggy Diamonds TV. Shouts out to Doggy Diamonds. In May 2017, Scott LaRock was celebrated by having a Bronx Boulevard name in his honor on the intersection of Jerome Avenue and Kingsbridge Boulevard. I'm glad he did that, though. And it's crazy because it's been over 30 plus years since he's passed away. So y'all let me know, man. Y'all let me know, was his death an accident? Was it accidental? Because Scott squashed the beef between D-Nice and that guy. It was his bodyguard who restarted the beef, and they really was shooting at him. But like said,
thanks for joining me today. It is Tuesday. May y'all be blessed. 60 Gang, aka Great Grandpa. See you guys tomorrow. I'm out.